to record the Spanish Plus lesson. So I've sorted that out already. Let me bring up our PowerPoint and we'll get cracking. There we go. Excellent. So we're lesson 19. We're getting through. It's March, isn't it? March already. It'll soon be spring. Give it another. I think it is technically.
It's spring technically.
Yeah, yeah. It's what do they call it? Meteorological spring.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we got quite a bit of news from the government last week, all about when we can go back to school, when we can do this, when we can do that. None of it guaranteed, of course. They did say that life is back to normal from June the 21st. So provided we've had our jabs and we've got our vaccination passport and whatever else you might need, we can go on holiday, we can mix together, and I suppose, strictly speaking, we might be able to start Spanish classes. I'm not going to do anything in a hurry because I've got a sneaking feeling that the policy might slam into reverse at any stage between now and June the 21st. But it's optimistic, and I think what we'll probably plan to do is carry on with Zoom for the rest of this term up until July, and then fingers crossed we'll be able to go back in the Copeland Centre in September, and we'll keep it under review. I think that's the message. So, buenos días, señoras y señoras. Bienvenidos a la lección 19 de la clase de español. Don't forget to press record, it says on the thing. I've pressed record, so all right. ¿Qué tenemos esta semana? What do we have this week? Well, we're going to start off looking at the homework. We're going to do. Did somebody scream when I said that? No? Something went in my earphones.
In time to sneeze. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, it's a sneeze. You're allergic to homework.
Yes.
Somebody's dog ate their homework.
So we're going to look at homework. Then we're going to do a little spell on reflexive verbs. Great fun, reflexive verbs. You love those. We'll look at some more things around the house. Lots of new words to remember, and we'll finish off, if we have time, with a little lesson on how to complain gently that you haven't got what you asked for. So we'll do that. So let's take a look at the homework. It's everybody has their homework. What we had to do was choose the correct conjugation of the verb and make a sentence. So I read the newspaper every day. Leo el periódico todos los días. 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 That's God's. Todos los días. I read the newspaper every day. No need to use the personal pronoun yo. It's not incorrect. It's not necessary. The conjugation tells you that it's you, I, that's reading it. If you want to emphasize that I read the newspaper every day, don't tell me I don't know what's happening. You could say, yo leo el periódico, but it's not necessarily a normal sentence. My wife prefers to read a magazine. Mi esposa prefiere leer una revista. Now, leer. It's a bit of a trick, this. So leer is left in the infinitive form because it's following another verb. So when we have two verbs together, as you all know, conjugate the first one, the second one, bonus, remains in the infinitive. You don't have to worry about conjugating it. Do you drink red or white wine? Bebes vino tinto or vino blanco? So bebes, you could say bebe if you were talking in the formal, but presumably if you're asking somebody if they drink red or white wine, you're in an informal situation, unless you're the waiter, of course, in which case you may say bebe. Yo solo bebo vino tinto. I only drink red wine. Bebo. Every Sunday, my wife speaks to her mother on the phone. Cada domingo, each Sunday, or todos los domingos is fine. Todos los domingos, mi esposa habla con su madre por teléfono. Habla, she speaks. Any questions on those? Any? How did everybody do? Everybody okay? I think Ian's buried his head in his hands.
No, I was just wondering, for I only drink wine, could you just say solo bebo vino tinto rather than have the yo in front of it?
You could, yeah.
All right. Thanks.
Yeah, it's not. Often those personal pronouns are unnecessary because the Spanish do conjugate it, so you sort of know who's doing what. That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. I speak to my mother twice a week. Hablo a mi madre 2 veces a la semana. Hablo is the verb you're looking for. I write a letter to my daughter each month. Escribo una carta a mi hija cada mes. I write a letter to my daughter each month. We write to each other twice a year. We write, escribimos el uno al otro 2 veces al año. If I said nos escribimos a uno al otro 2 veces al año en nuestros cumpleaños y en Navidad, what would that mean? Adrian, what do you reckon?
Write to each other twice a year at our birthdays and at Christmas.
Absolutely, well done. Yeah. Number 9, she eats chocolate twice a day. Ella come chocolate 2 veces al día. They do not eat chocolate. Ellos no comen chocolate. Okay, any questions on those? That last 5?
Number 6.
Number 6. Hablo a mi madre.
Hablo con mi madre.
Yeah. Why not? Yeah, I speak with my mother. Yeah, be fine. I said.
Depends whether your mother. It depends whether your mother talks back at all.
In my experience, mothers always talk back, don't they, Adrian? They've always got some words of wisdom to impart. The sentence was, I speak to my mother, so hablo a would be speak to. I speak with, hablo con. But yeah, the meaning's absolutely the same, Caroline. No problem there. Everybody happy with those? Everybody get? Yeah.
Just one query, Eric, on number 9. I've put, I'm not sure if it isn't incorrect though. Ella come el chocolate?
Yeah, the Spanish do use the definitive object quite definite object quite often. So they do often say el chocolate, el or la, and people are often called. I was often called el Eric when I was being referred to in Spanish. So el chocolate, yeah, I wouldn't say that's wrong, Paul, by any means. I don't think it's necessary in this case, but it's nobody's gonna worry about that. You'll be understood absolutely, and that's our main objective at this stage of the game. Okay, so now we're going to take a look at reflexive verbs. Now, reflexive verbs are things that, I suppose, things that you do to yourself. This form is used in a sentence where the action of the verb is being applied to the subject. So in English, we don't use verbs in the reflexive particularly. We use other methods to imply that we're doing something to ourselves. We could say, for example, I wash myself. You wash yourself. They wash themselves. We wash ourselves. And that's clear. That's the English reflexive. But we'd probably say, I'm having a wash in normal English speech. So the sort of concept of a reflexive verb disappears completely, but we all know that you're washing yourself. So I'm having a wash, as opposed to I'm washing the dog. So in Spanish, there's a form that we need to use. Okay. Now, when a verb's reflexive, its infinitive form will have se at the end. So we've got a number of AR verbs here. Levantar, duchar, afectar, and they've all got the se on the end. So you know they're reflexive. Levantarse, to get up, ducharse, to shower, afectarse, to shave, lavarse, to wash, bañarse, to bath, maquillarse, to put on makeup, and acostarse, to go to bed. Now, this isn't a complete list of reflexive verbs in Spanish by any means, but it's an illustration of things that you do to yourself. There was a video from Why Not Spanish, which went through that quite well. Did you get a chance to look at that? Was that helpful?
Yeah, thought it was useful.
Yeah. Now, the thing about reflexive verbs is they always need a reflexive pronoun to accompany the correctly conjugated form of the verb. So you've got to, let's look at levantarse, you've got to conjugate levantar in the correct form, and you've also got to add a reflexive pronoun. And the reflexive pronouns that you need to learn are me, or myself, te, yourself, that's in the two forms, so informal, se, himself, herself, or yourself if you're speaking in a formal mood. Nos is ourselves, os, yourselves, informal, and eos, eas, ustedes, i.e. themselves, or yourselves, formal, is se. So me, te, se, nos, os, se. They're the pronouns They're the reflexive pronouns. Now, it's not too hard to remember them. Where it starts to get difficult is when you get direct object pronouns as well, and other forms of pronouns, and remembering which is reflexive and which is direct object does get a bit confusing. Were you raising your hand, Adrian, or you?
It's just occasionally, I think I'm going slightly deaf, so occasionally your voice drops off and I can't quite hear you.
Oh dear, all right, sorry. I have got this new camera and microphone combined. I'm not sure, is the volume okay for everybody?
Fine,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, okay. There might be some way I can turn it up if you need to. Or maybe you can turn your computers up if you need to. So they are the reflexive pronouns that we need to learn.
Mentioned, Adrian, again, you mentioned that there's lots of reflexive verbs in Spanish. I think where in English you can say myself, like I washed myself, I got myself up, that's relatively easy to get your brain around, isn't it? But there's quite a lot of words where we wouldn't do it. Like if you fall down, you don't fall yourself, but I think in Spanish you do, don't you?
That's absolutely true. Yeah, caer would generally be reflexive. I fell. I think in those sorts of cases, you have to think. Well, you have to think in a more grammatical way. Quite right. You wouldn't say I fell myself, but I fell over. It's you're directly receiving the action of the verb. In the case of a fall, maybe quite painfully. So you do have to think more grammatically at times. So so absolutely. Let's just have a look at reflexive verbs then, and we'll use levantarse. So I get up is me levanto. How do we get to me levanto from levantarse? So the first thing we do is knock off the ending. So knock off the se. So you have levantar, and you just conjugate that as you would a normal AR verb. This is a regular AR verb. So levanto would be I get up. But because the action is being performed on yourself, you're getting yourself up, you need to make it reflexive, and you need a reflexive pronoun in front of the conjugated verb. So we end up with me levanto. Levantarse, knock off the se, conjugate it for the I form, yo form, and you add the reflexive pronoun in front of the verb, me levanto. So that's clear as mud. Yeah? Any questions?
Eric, would you say yo me levanto or just me levanto?
You could say yo me levanto, but like every other sentence with Spanish, it's clear that you're getting yourself up.
Yeah.
I get myself up. Yeah, you could say that. It's not incorrect. Spaniard would never say it. They'd just say me levanto. It's perfectly obvious, isn't it? What's it called? Duolingo. Duolingo, when it introduces reflexive verbs, might ask you to put in the personal pronoun as well.
Yeah, that's why I was asking.
Was it? Yeah.
Yeah, because they seem to insist on it all the way through.
Duolingo, it's really good and it's free, so it's a wonderful program. But it does have a number of annoying features, and insisting on having a personal pronoun in many sentences is one of its most annoying features, I think. Okay, so is everybody happy with that then? Everybody understands that? Yep. Okay, good. So we get up, perform exactly the same way. Levantarse becomes levantamos, and we need the reflexive pronoun in front. Nos levantamos. We get up. We get ourselves up. He gets up. Él se levanta. Or just se levanta if we know that we're talking about him. If in the context of the conversation that's been going on, it's obvious that we're talking about him, we can just say se levanta. If it's not, we might need the clarification. Él se levanta or ella se levanta. But only if it's necessary for clarification. And they get up, se levantan. Again, you may say ellos if you need it for clarification. Now, some reflexive verbs aren't always reflexive. So, yeah, lavar is to wash. You can lavo el coche, like wash the car. It's not reflexive because the object that's receiving the action of the verb is the car. So there's no need to, it's not the subject that's receiving the action. Other examples, I bath the dog, baño el perro. I bath myself, me baño. So that's the difference between a verb being used as a reflexive verb or just a standard verb, non-reflexive. Baño el perro, I wash the dog. Me baño, I wash myself. So let's go back to levantar. The infinitive form of the verb is levantarse, and it includes the se ending. And when we have two verbs together, the second verb remains in the infinitive, you remember. That's one of the little bonuses of Spanish. I always enjoy it when I don't have to conjugate two verbs in one sentence. So the second verb remains in the infinitive, but when it's a reflexive verb, the infinitive ending changes to be the appropriate reflexive pronoun. That sounds awfully complicated, but let's give you an example. I have to get up early. I get myself up would be me levanto. I have to get up early. In other words, I have to get myself up early would be tengo. Tengo que, I have to. And then we use levantarse in the infinitive. But because it's me that's receiving the action, it's not levantarse, it's levantarme. So tengo que levantarme temprano. I have to get myself up early. Yeah. So Paul, also known as admin to this group, how would you say we have to get up early? You're on mute at the moment, so I don't know if you're.
How's that?
That's fine, yeah. That's lovely.
Yeah, okay.
You now.
Nos tiene que levantamos temprano.
Okay, so the first thing we do is we have to. I have to is tengo que. We have to would be
Nos.
Not yet, no.
Tiene.
Tiene is you have to, or he has to.
Tenemos.
Tenemos there, absolutely. And we have to is tenemos que.
Right, okay.
Okay, putting que at the end of the verb is, makes it have to. Yeah. Tengo que, I have to. tenemos que, we have to, and we have to get up early. We're going to use levantarse, but what ending should we put at the end of levantarse?
Amos.
We have to say, we keep levantarse in the infinitive, so we don't have to say levantamos. We use levantar, but we need a reflexive ending on the end of it. So we're going to say
Nos.
tenemos que levantarnos.
Nos.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, got you.
So when we're using an infinitive verb, when we're using a reflexive verb in the infinitive, we just have to remember to put the correct reflexive pronoun at the end of it.
Yeah.
So
Amos.
it seems a lot to remember at this stage, but you know, you will trust me, you will get the hang of it. When I came to reflexive verbs in my first year of Spanish, learning Spanish, I thought, I think I'll just give up. This is ridiculous. Why do they make things so complicated? I just thought I was getting on top of things, and then they throw reflexive verbs at me. But trust me, it starts to make sense after a couple of years.
Does get easier.
It does get easier.
Eric, could I just ask, does the
course.
pronoun always have to come at the end if it's the second verb, or can it come before? Could it be nos or not? Well, would it be nos levantarse? Or
No.
it
Comes
has
on
to
the
always
end.
go at the end?
Yeah, it goes on the end.
Yeah.
It's think of it as the infinitive form of a verb. Don't think of it as a verb plus an ending. It's the infinitive form changes to reflect who's doing what to themselves. So it does have to be a complete word. It can't be moved around. In this case, I know sometimes endings can be moved around, and but not in this particular case. Okay, so you remember when we use the imperative mood, we can hook a pronoun on the end of a conjugated verb. Now, we can always hook a pronoun on the end of a verb when it's in the infinitive form, but when it's in the when we're using a verb in the normal way, we'd have to conjugate it, and any pronoun would come before it. But when we're using the imperative mood, when we're telling somebody to do something, we can hook that pronoun on at the end. Now, I keep banging on about this, but it's important to get this in your head. It's another of those little complications of Spanish that make the language great fun to learn. It's more helpful. So when you're telling somebody, I get up, me levanto. If you're telling somebody, you get up, levántate, it's you get up. Yeah, levanta. But instead of saying te levanta, you say levántate. So get yourself up now would be levántate ahora. Get me up at 6, levantarme a las 6. So see how the ending changes when you're telling somebody to do something different.
Eric,
Yes.
can I raise a very nitpicking grammatical point?
What have I done?
I think in the second example, levanta is being used as a transitive verb. And I think the me that is hooked on the end is the direct object pronoun, not the reflexive pronoun. Happens to be the same, but isn't
Right.
it?
Okay.
A bit like when you wash the dog, that was transitive. When
Yes.
somebody wakes me up, that's transitive.
Okay. I'll happily agree with you, Adrian. Get if you're telling somebody to get you up at 6, levántame a las 6 does the job. Yeah, are we good with that? Are we? Yeah. Right. So in Spanish, any verb potentially can be reflexive, and the Spanish sometimes make the verb reflexive for emphasis. But there are several verbs where making a verb reflexive changes its meaning. And one such verb is ir to go. But if you say irse, it means to leave or to go out, and it can be used as an alternative to salir. Oh, my dog's just come in. There we go. So that's an example where making a verb reflexive changes the meaning, and you will see irse used quite often. So let's just give an example. I go out with my friends every Saturday. Me voy. I go out. Me voy con mis amigos todos los sábados. I go out with my friends every Saturday. Me voy a las 6. I'm leaving at 6. Now you'll see those kind of sentences used, and you might wonder why are they saying me voy? Why have they put that in there? It's because they're saying they're leaving, they're going out, and they've made it reflexive, so they've used the correct conjugation and the appropriate reflexive pronoun. Irse's got several other meanings. It can also mean to escape, to forget, and to die. I've never made a sentence with any of those meanings, but it is a possibility. For our homework this week, which I'll send round later, we'll construct some sentences using reflexive pronouns. That's something to look forward to. Yeah. Okay. So that's a quick run through reflexive verbs. Now, does anybody have any questions about it? It's complicated. It feels complicated, and if you're new to Spanish, it can feel a bit of a nightmare. Anybody? No.
Ask you next week.
Yeah, that's fine. Yes, we can always return to it once it's
after the homework.
Once it's sunk in and reached the impervious layer in the brain. Yeah. Okay. So we're going to look now at things around the house. So we'll do a huge vocab expansion here. Lots of things to learn, and let's just run through them. I did send these round, so lots of you will know these already. Those of you that have done the course before, they'll be becoming more familiar to you. The new ones, the new people may not know these quite so well. So let's run through them. Let me choose a victim. Lorraine asked a question, so she's popped up to the top of the gallery. So she's right there in the firing line. Can you do these, Lorraine?
Kitchen, la cucina.
Yeah.
Bedroom.
Not cocina, just cocina.
Cocina.
Yeah, no H. Cocina.
Bedroom, el dormitorio.
Yeah.
Lounge, la sala.
Yeah.
Dining room, I can't remember.
El comedor.
Comedor.
Remember, come to eat. So comedor.
Hall is el vestibulo.
El vestibulo.
Vestibulo.
Yep.
Stairs, las escal. Oh.
Yeah, you're halfway up them. Escaleras.
Escaleras.
Escaleras. See?
Bathroom, el baño.
Yeah. Mhm.
Shower is la ducha.
Yeah, there is an H there, so it's a cha. Ducha.
Ducha.
Yep.
Wash basin, el lavabo.
Muy bien.
And WC. Ooh, I probably use el baño again, but I don't know.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, it can be el bata, but and you also hear WC used too, but baño is fine, or los servicios if you need the toilet. Okay, let's have a look at those. Okay, cocina, la habitación for bedroom is if you're booking a hotel room and you wanted to reserve a bedroom, you probably wouldn't ask for a dormitorio. You'd ask for a habitación, una habitación. If you want a double, habitación doble. You can also use around the home cuarto de dormir, but dormitorio is the one that I hear used most often. Lounge could be la sala or el salón. Dining room, el comedor, or vestibulo. I've also heard sala for hall. I mean, a lot of these words sort of get a little bit mixed up around the house. So you will hear different words, and different countries, different regions have different words for the same room. We always used to call our lounge the sitting room. I think that's a bit of a northern expression. So we don't anymore. We've gone middle class south, and we call it a lounge now, but like everybody else. Stairs, las escaleras. Una escalera is a ladder. It can also be a sequence or a straight run in cards. When I've been playing cards with my Ecuadorian family, they're always talking about escaleras. You need an escalera, necesita una escalera, and a ladder. But it's a sequence or a straight run. Bathroom, baño, shower, la ducha, wash basin, lavado, and a WC, el bata. Okay, here's the next lot, and Abigail, how are you on your toilets and your taps?
Toilet. Now then, you've just told us what a toilet is.
Yeah, it's terrible when this happens, isn't it?
WC.
Yeah, WC would work. El bata, el baño is fine. Or if you're talking about the toilet, the physical toilet pan itself, they'd probably say inodoro. Inodoro. It's sort of the big pot.
Un grifo de agua.
Muy bien, muy bien.
It's jabón, but I don't know if it's male or female. So
yeah, it's el. It's
el jabón.
El jabón. Yeah.
And
shampoo is shampoo.
Shampoo. La toalla.
Toalla, yeah. Toalla.
Kitchen sink. No, I don't know what that is. No say.
No say. Muy bien, muy bien. Excellent. Okay. We'll pass that one then for the time being. What about floor?
El piso.
Piso, yeah. I always remember that because my daughter-in-law was forever telling my first granddaughter, no al piso, because she was baby-led weaning and she used to sit there in a chair throwing everything on the floor to the dog's delight and to her amusement. but Lucy would be shouting, no al piso, no al piso. Piso, floor, el piso.
Ceiling, no say.
Okay. El techo, ceiling.
El techo.
Yeah.
Wall. There again, I'm not very good. Pared, but is
Pared,
it la
yeah.
pared?
La pared, yeah.
La pared.
Yeah. Yeah.
And light is loose. Loose.
No, just one
Luz.
light. La luz. Two lights. Las luces. Yeah. Okay, let's go through these because there's a few other bits and pieces around it that you might need to know. So, toilet, inodoro, or el baño. Water tap, el grifo de agua. On la toalla is a towel. A flannel would be a paño, or a small cloth, cleaning cloth. The kitchen sink. Do you remember the verb fregar, to scrub? Well, the kitchen sink is el fregadero de la cocina. El fregadero. Floor, piso, ceiling, techo, el techo, and wall, la pared, or el muro, and light is la luz. So, if you want to tell somebody to turn the light on, we'd use the verb encender, which means to ignite or to physically light something with a match, to set fire to something, in fact. Obviously, goes back to the days when turning the light on meant lighting the candle. So, turn the light on, enciende la luz is the informal imperative mood, the verb encender, to ignite, to turn on. The usted form is encienda la luz. So enciende, encienda. To tell somebody to turn the light off, apagar is to put out. And again, its traditional use would have been extinguish. So literally putting the fire out. Apagar. So we can say apaga la luz. Enciende la luz, apaga la luz. If you want to say, should I turn the light on, use deber, to should do, or to ought to. And if you use it in the conditional, you're saying, should I? Debería apagar la luz. Should I turn the light off? Actually, that is not turn the light on. Debería encender la luz would be turn the light on. Should we turn the lights off? Deberíamos. Well, again, we're using the conditional form, apagar las luces. So the light, la luz, is with a Z, and when it goes plural, it's a C-E-S, las luces. And if you're in a romantic mood, if it's Valentine's Day, and should we turn the lights off, while you're thinking of the right conjugation of deber in the conditional, you've probably lost the romantic moment. So I don't know, learn it first. You can say, you can also dim the lights, and to dim the lights, it's atenuar. So, deberíamos atenuar las luces. Shall we dim the lights? That was always a plot twist in a 70s soap, wasn't it? Or a drama, but a bit more sophisticated these days. Okay, we've got more nouns to learn. Who's next on my list? It's Adrian. Are you able to look at these, Adrian? You're on mute at the moment. Ah,
La
sì.
mesa.
Sì, la
La
mesa.
silla. Possibly a lavador.
Lavadora, sì. Muy bien.
La lavadora. La lavadora de los platos.
That would be good, wouldn't it? Yeah. It's quite close, actually. There's a couple of words for dishwasher. One of them is lavaplatos. So that's the one I tend to remember. Although you don't, in Spain you get plenty of dishwashers, but in Ecuador they're a very rare thing. You don't have
Lavaplatos,
yeah.
masculine.
No. Yes, it is. Yeah, yeah.
Lavaplatos.
It's interesting that the washing machine is feminine, but the dishwasher is masculine. So they know that we chaps always do the dishes.
La cacerola. Cacerola.
Cacerola, sí.
La cuchara.
Mm-hmm.
El cuchillo. El
Sí.
tenedor.
Mm-hmm.
La copa or el vaso, one of the two.
Yeah.
Taza, la taza.
Taza, yeah, that's right. Copa is a goblet, and vaso is a glass. Good, good. A few extra details here. La mesa, la silla, bang on. La lavadora, or washing machine. Dishwasher. The Spanish do love to throw in a tongue twister, and lavavajillas is a bit of a tongue twister. El lavavajillas. I tend to remember lavaplatos because a plate washer seems to make sense, stick in my brain. But as I say, they're not, certainly in Latin America, they don't tend to exist. If you're rich enough to buy a dishwasher, you're rich enough to employ a maid, and generally the maid that does the dishes. Saucepan, la cacerola. A frying pan would be el sartén. And the frying pan can be, it's one, you get these rules in Spanish, don't you, that every noun has to have a gender, and there's a few weird ones where you get two vowels together, and it's not easy to say la agua, so they make agua masculine even though it stays feminine. And sartén is a noun that can be masculine or feminine depending on the country or the region. So you're not going to get thrown in jail for getting it wrong, thankfully. Spoon, la cuchara. A small spoon, a teaspoon, cucharilla. Cucharada for a tablespoon, a big spoon. What about cucaracha? What's a cucaracha? Anybody know what cucaracha is?
The dance.
La cucaracha is a dance, yeah.
Cockroach.
Cockroach, isn't it?
It's a cockroach. I think the action of the feet movements in la cucaracha is the same as if you were stepping on a cockroach. So there we go. Cucaracha is a cockroach and a dance. Knife is el cuchillo. A sharp knife would be un cuchillo afilado, and a blunt knife, un cuchillo romo. Fork is el tenedor, and a cup or a mug would be la taza. So, who's next on my list of victims? It's Caroline Gray. How are you feeling, Caroline? Did you have your jab?
I did, yes.
Did you get the AstraZeneca?
I did, but I didn't have any problems.
Didn't have any problems. Oh, that's good. Yeah.
It was okay.
Lots of people have. I
Yes.
didn't. I was fine. Slightly sore arm.
I had problems the next day.
Did you? Yeah.
Yeah, after my AstraZeneca one. Yeah, I was in bed till mid-afternoon the next day. Couldn't get out of it.
Yeah.
A lot
Well,
of did.
I was all right when I had mine, fortunately.
yeah. Apparently, if you get a bad reaction, it's a good sign. I think this is like, I think this is a bit of mother's wisdom. It's a good sign because it means your immune system is responding strongly to it. So it's
Eric, sorry, but I have to go now. So thanks.
Okay. Okay, Amanda. All right. Yeah. Yeah. Nos vemos. See you soon. So, Caroline, how would you ask the waiter for a teaspoon?
Quiero una cucharilla, por favor.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, that's good. You could say necesito un cucharilla, por favor. I need a teaspoon. Quiero una cucharilla. I want a teaspoon. No tengo una cucharilla. I don't have a teaspoon. Podría tener una cucharilla, por favor. Could I have a teaspoon, please? So, just as in English, there's lots of ways to do it. But terrific. You got that one. And since you did so well there, how would you say to the waiter, this knife is dirty?
Este cuchillo, is it?
Yeah, cuchillo, yeah.
Es sucio.
Sucio. Yeah,
Sucio.
well done. Yeah. Don't forget when you've got those two L's together, as in you're doing cuchillo, the double L sound is a yeah or a j, depending what country you're in. But in Spain, it's generally a y sound. Este cuchillo. Es sucio. Sucio is one of those adjectives that needs to change from an R or an A ending, depending whether it's masculine or feminine. So that's perfect. Well done. Este cuchillo es sucio. Podría tener otro, por favor. I mean, could I have another one, please? So there's some sentences to remember if you need to complain in the restaurant. I know all of you eat only in 5-star restaurants, so such things are never going to happen to you. So have we got more? Oh gosh, it's never ending, these things around the house. Apple, how are you today? You're busy writing. And you're on mute at the moment, Apple. Can you remember how to unmute? I don't think Apple can't hear me, or she can't remember how to unmute. But let's move on. Giselle, you can. Yeah, there you go. How are you with these? We should have asked Carl. Really, he knows all about around the house, doesn't he?
El plato.
Okay.
Bowl, el cuenco.
Sí, muy bien.
La jarra.
Good, yeah. Jarra.
El vaso. La copa. One
Sí.
glass.
Muy bien.
Los platos.
Yep.
Las cortinas.
Muy bien.
No sé, blinds. Mario, the cupboard.
Sí, yeah. That's a cupboard or wardrobe, yeah.
Drawer, no sé.
Okay, let's pull them up. You know, I can never remember the phrase for a cupboard or a drawer. Plate and plato. Bowl, you've got a few options with bowl. El cuenco, el bol. El bol is almost sounds like bowl, doesn't it? So that's easy to remember. El tazón, it's also there. Beer mug, la jarra. El vaso is a glass. La copa is a glass with a stem. Curtains, platos, we know. Curtains, las cortinas. Never forget that because I used to have a Ford Cortina, and it amuses me to think it was named after a set of curtains. Or it's probably named after the there's a road in southern France as well. Blinds are persianas, las persianas. So I remember that one because you can get Persian blinds in the UK, can't you? Is that type of blind, I think? A Persian blind. So persianas, it just sticks in my head. I can never remember cupboard. Alacena. Wardrobe, el armario, and drawer, el cajón, or la gaveta. So, voy a cerrar las cortinas. I'm going to close the curtains. If you want to say, should I close the curtains, you can make it a question by raising the tone at the end. Voy a cerrar las cortinas, or you could say, cierro las cortinas. I close the curtains. And if you want to tell somebody to close the curtains, cierra las cortinas.
That one really does sound like some Ford motor cars, doesn't it?
You've got two Fords in one sentence there, haven't you?
Sierra.
Sierra. Mug, which we decided was jara, mug. It's got a lot of meanings in English that it doesn't have in Spanish. So you can't call somebody a jara if you think they're a bit of a mug. Their ex-boyfriend is a mug. Su ex-novio es un bobo. So if you want to say somebody is a dope, a mug, you could call them a bobo. I wouldn't recommend it unless you're sure you can outrun them. I can't stand looking at her mug. We wouldn't say that, of course, but somebody's mug, as in face, would be la jeta. No soporto verle la jeta. And we talk about being mugged, which comes from the sect of Indian robbers, is it? The mugging? I can't remember exactly, but we use it as a verb to be robbed. So in Spanish, they'd say asaltar, not mugged. Somebody mugged her at midnight. Alguien la asaltó a medianoche. To be robbed is simply a robber. Now, how are we doing on time? I've not got my phone with me. Have I run over yet or not?
Just about.
Just about.
Are we okay for 5 minutes? We can
Yeah.
do this last slide, yeah? Okay. So, did you get what you were asked for? A little gentle complaint. So, do you remember when we ask for something in Spanish, we use the verb pedir, and when we ask a question, we use preguntar. So when we ask something that we will get an answer to, it's preguntar. And when we ask for something, we'll receive something in exchange, a service or an object, we use pedir. Pedir is the past tense, simple past tense preterite of pido, which is I ask. But if you were in a bar or a restaurant and you were asking for food, you would use pedir if you're going to say, I'm going to ask for food, voy a pedir por comida, para comida. But if you're ordering it from a waiter, you wouldn't say pido, I ask, pido para cerveza. I ask for it. You wouldn't do that. You'd say, quisiera una cerveza y una copa de vino tinto, por favor. So to ask for drinks or coffee, something like that, you'd use quiero or voy a tomar, I'm going to take. In a cafe, looking at the menu, I'd be looking at the menu and I'd say, oh, voy a tomar una ensalada mixta. Then para mi esposa, whatever she wants. But if you'd ordered something and it's turned out not to be what you asked for, if I ordered camarones apañados and the waiter brought me ceviche. So if I wanted battered prawns and I ended up with raw fish, I'd say, esto no es lo que pedí. Quise camarones, or esto no es lo que pedimos. It should be pedi, not pedi. I don't know why I put pedi. Esto no es lo que pedimos. Quisimos, whatever it is you wanted. So this is not what I asked for. No es lo que pedí. Quise, I wanted prawns. Or this is not what we asked for. We wanted whatever it was. And if you've asked for something and it's not turned up, disculpa, te pedí, for example, un poco de agua. Excuse me, I asked you for some water. Excuse me, I asked you for bread. I asked you for sauce. I asked you for a spoon. So it's a way of it's a useful sentence in a restaurant, in a cafe, when you've been bought the wrong stuff, or you want to, or they've forgotten to bring you something worth a quick remember. Okay, thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions? No?
Thank you.
Good. Okay.
Eric, can you hear me now?
I can, Apple. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Sorry,
Okay.
Apple. We missed you.
Right.
I wasn't sure whether you could.
Your PowerPoint suddenly disappeared for me.
Oh, right. Okay.
And so I don't know what happened with it. So
Maybe we had a freeze. There's a big crow landed on the line somewhere between here and Warming.
Yeah, maybe.
Something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah. Okay.
Right.
We can hear you fine now.
Fine.
So thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Love the t-shirt, Carl. Or is it a sleeveless pullover? It's a t-shirt. Yeah. Makes me nostalgic. Won't be doing that this year. Maybe next year. Who knows? And I'll send round a little homework. Thanks very much, everybody. Well done. If you have any questions about reflexive verbs, then do save them up. And I'm going to look up what a transitive verb is now, Adrian. Did you say transitive verb? Yeah, I'm going to have a look what one of those is, so I know. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Nos vemos.
Adios.
Ciao. Ciao.
Bye.
Bye.
Gracias.